Hello, my name is Kelsey and I just called in sick today. Welcome to the podcast, Can You Take My Shift? This podcast is about bonding with your coworkers about how much you truly hate your job. So I just have one question for my guest Amy today. Can you take my shift?
Not anymore.
Today my guest is my producer Amy, but she's more than that though. She's my best friend, love of my life, my little sister, partner in crime, roommate. We've shared a bunk bed, many and other things two normal adults in their 20s have done together.
Oh, absolutely.
So I want to start this podcast off because you are one of the most important people in my life, and you've also decided to start a podcast with me, which good on ya.
No one else could be crazy enough.
I want to ask you, what was your very first impression of me?
So we'll just quickly clear the air. We met, first of all, at a job interview. But at the time we didn't know each other at all. It was like a group interview setting first. And so I walked into the room. I didn't sit in the first row chairs because no one sits in the first row chairs in a job interview unless you're late or you're a super keener. So I sat in the second row and I sat beside this lovely girl who, do you have red hair at the time?
Yes, that was my cherry red phase, but you also weren't supposed to have unnatural hair, so I had pulled it into the tightest bun possible.
Right. Yes, you had red hair, and I remember sitting beside you, and I was just like, hi. And you seemed like quiet, a little standoffish, but not in like a rude way, just in like a quiet way, like I just don't know how to talk, and I don't want to talk kind of thing. And I was like, cool, no problem. Me being the awkward little person I am, I'm like, I don't know how to talk. So that's how we met.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, very standoffish person, but that's just like part of my charm, I'd like to think. Because my first impression of you was you sat down beside me. Because again, I'm not going to sit in the front row. No, when you're at a job interview, you're like, where do I strategically place myself? Because if you sit in the front row, they're going to be looking at you the entire time.
Absolutely.
So, sat in the second row. Usually I try to sit down beside the nice looking person in the room. Nobody really looked that nice, so I sat beside myself. Then you plunked down beside me. And for this job interview, you had to be at least 18.
Yes.
I thought this 14-year-old sat down beside me. This girl sits down beside me and I was like, oh, she seems nice. We start talking and I'm like, she's gotta be 14. Like, why are you in this room?
I lied about my age. That's how badly I wanted this job.
Yeah. So we ended up talking, thought she was very nice, never saw her again for over a year. And then we wound up back in each other's lives.
Yeah, so basically how it worked was our job was... I guess, do you want to introduce the job?
Yeah, we'll talk about our job. So we applied for an internship to work in Florida, where you take a year-long internship at a major theme park. We're not going to say the name of the theme park, but most people can put two and two together.
Mm-hmm.
So you work at this theme park for a year in a little mini country. So we're both from Canada, so we ended up both working in mini Canada.
Yeah. Yeah, so I got down there before Kelsey did, about 6 to 8 months.
Yeah,
somewhere
I think
along
6
those
months.
lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, so apparently, and this I didn't know, we were riding in the car together to go to work the same day. No idea that it was you in the car. I didn't know that it was you until I think even like a couple days later. We were sitting. There was like a break room. We were sitting at like our break table. I was eating my little lunch and you were sitting across the table, and I remember just like turning and you were looking at me and I was looking at you and I went, I know you. And then you replied, I know you too. And I was like, but you had different color hair last time we met. And you were like, so did you. Because at the interview I was a terrible bleach blonde with super dark,
yeah.
Not even dark roots. I tried to fix them, but literally the interviewer was like, so blonde isn't your natural hair color, is it? And I was like, no, but if I get this job, I promise I'll change it. And then I got it and I had to get it colored. And I guess kind of the rest is history. Here we are today.
Yeah, no, I remember that car ride because I got down there and I got so sick immediately after I got down there that when I went to the urgent care center, they said, you probably have mono. And I was just sitting there crying to the nurse, and she said, stop crying. And I was like, I just got down here last week.
Yeah.
So I remember, because it was our trainer driving the car. Well, the person who was training me, and I'm sitting in the back with two other people, and then this girl gets in the front, and I'm staring at her from the middle seat. She's in the passenger seat, and I'm like, why do I know you? But I was also like still quite sick, so I was like a little bit delirious if I was like having one of those, like, you know, when you see someone, you think you know them, but you've never met them in your life before. They just have that
Yeah.
weird sense of familiarity. That's what I thought. But no, it was the girl I had talked to a year ago, because we had our interview in March. Say it was March.
February or March. It was around that time.
And then I got down to Florida a year later.
Yeah, and I got down in November of that same year.
So I hadn't seen you in an entire year. So
Yeah.
that's why I was having that experience of like, am I going to say something?
I sure was not going to, because I was like, I don't know. But even when we did work together, we didn't work together. We worked in separate departments. The little tiny Canada had 3 different departments. I worked in the merchandise department, and then you worked in food and beverage.
Yeah, let's get more into the actual job, because that's what we're here to talk about, how much customer service is everyone's favorite thing in the entire world, and that's what we want to do for the rest of our lives. So I came from a food and beverage background. So I started on a popcorn and beer cart, and then I also worked in the restaurant. It was a very expensive restaurant that I could not afford to eat there, unless I just got an appetizer and then walked out.
What was the most expensive dish at the time?
Ooh, it was the porterhouse for 2. It was $126 28-ounce steak. Yeah.
America.
And then it came with like mashed potatoes and like double baked mac and cheese, and then the sauces. It looked really good, but it's a lot of steak.
A lot of meat.
Especially when like the 6-ounce filet was $58. I've got all these prices, like it's been 3 years, and I have all these prices still ingrained into my head. But yeah, so working for food and beverage was definitely an experience. Also, anyone who has ever worked outside in the summer in Florida heat, that is probably one of the...
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. That is just signing up to be tortured.
Mm-hmm.
I had never felt that hot in my entire life. Like, yes, I'm pretty cute, but the amount of heat that just radiates off your body. And then we had to wear these god-awful wool tea-length skirts and these white, I think they were cotton.
Our whole uniform was cotton.
Yeah.
The skirt was just a very, very dense, heavy cotton, and then the shirt was some weird cotton blend that they tried to put some amount of like wicking in like a separate layer, but it just was not enough.
Yeah. And then they also had a suede vest, which like, picture this in your head. This is not a Florida summer outfit. The suede vest was kind of the revolt amongst the entire place. Everyone refused to wear the suede vest.
Oh yeah, if you didn't have to wear it, no one did.
Yeah. And then since I was in food, I had to wear a hat. You didn't have to. You were safe from the fisherman's hat.
Oh, absolutely.
So it was a white shirt, a brown suede vest, a red plaid skirt, and then I had to top it off with a brown fisherman's hat. It was quite the look. I gotta say, the only time a suitor came to visit me while I was working, he immediately stopped talking to me after he saw me in my uniform. It was 40 degrees, and I was dripping sweat down my entire body and had beer dumped all over me. So to say he was shallow, I would say, is the moral of that story.
Absolutely. If a man doesn't deserve you at that point in your life, he doesn't deserve you at the best point in your life.
So when we worked at this theme park, what was I want to talk about, because we in customer service, you do, of course, talk about everything you hate first, because we love to complain. But what was some things you like your top 3 favorite things about doing it?
So for me, we'll just quickly into my background. Oddly enough, when I got hired, I also came from like a food service-ish background. I'd only ever had one job in my life, and it was at this food service place. And then I got put into merchandise, and I was like, cool, great. 'Cause that's kind of what I wanted to do, like, future career wise. So I was like, great, cool, retail, that'll be so much fun. And it was, and it also wasn't. Um, but like my top three things about the job for me, I did we worked in mini Canada, so we sold maple syrup, we sold pajamas, we sold hockey sticks, we sold anything that had weird Canadian puns on it. A lot of people always loved, we sold these incredibly stupid soaps
Oh, the
that were, yeah, that
soaps.
were like beaver butts, and that's like the only one I remember. A couple of them actually
Wasn't
smelled.
reindeer poop like another
Oh,
one?
yeah, that was a holiday seasonal one. We also sold like a beaver butt like lip chap, and people would go like, you would just hear people read the names and go ha 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 ha, so funny, and you're like, if I had a dollar, if I had a dollar for every time someone laughed, I wouldn't have to have worked there anymore. But I did like, so like the merch was silly, but at least it gave everyone a good laugh and a good time. I did like interacting with guests for the most part. I want to say like 70% of my interactions were great, 30% not so great. And I really liked that our little like merchandise team, we became really close as like a family, and especially when you live super far away from home, it was nice to have that kind of like bonding relationship with all your coworkers, which is something I didn't really have back home at my old job. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say those are great. Three great things about working there. For me, it was a very much different experience because I worked at a popcorn and beer cart where we sold 3 Canadian beers and maple popcorn, which I love popcorn. Popcorn is in my top 10 favorite foods. You can't get me on the maple popcorn.
Honestly, me too.
Like,
It's weird.
I like my good old salted butter, oily popcorn. Could not get me on the maple popcorn. And then see, I feel like I had a definitely different experience, especially with working with alcohol. You have a very interesting experience. I know you did have to work with alcohol a little bit.
Not nearly to the degree that you did.
Yeah.
And we had like a completely different set of rules besides you. So.
Yeah. Things I really enjoyed. For me, my number one was, I'm trying to think of what I enjoyed most. I've never been a big kids person. Like I've never just been like, I love kids so much. Like I never wanted to be a teacher, or I did babysit. But a lot of the times I would get a kid who just was not my favorite, we'll put it that way. And working down there, I found, for me, it was very much 1 in 10. You'd have 9 screaming, bratty, like unbehaved children. And for a little part of me excuses the fact that it's hot. You're tired. Kids like schedules, and you're completely off your schedule. You're thirsty, you're hungry, you're tired. You don't fully understand like why do I have to wait an hour? So I get that for the most part, but then also that just goes back to bad parenting, which I can rant on for like 10 years, so I won't get into that.
It's a customer service podcast,
Yeah.
not a parenting podcast.
True. I don't have any children, so of course I don't know how hard it is to be a parent. But you would meet this one kid who you would just, like, I'm talking like full on emoji, heart eyes. They'd be the cutest, sweetest, kindest kid in the world. Like one little girl talked to me for 20 minutes about a pin. And they would just, or I love my favorite things about kids. My favorite thing about kids of all time is when kids think light up shoes make them run faster. That's probably my favorite child thing. But little kids, that 1 out of 10 would come talk to me and would melt my ice cold heart. And then when I did like, that you got the opportunity to volunteer, and I did have the opportunity to volunteer with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and that was a very big thing for me, and I volunteered with those kids, and those kids were all so sweet.
That would melt your heart under regular circumstances,
exactly.
But then being
Yeah.
this theme park where all these Make-A-Wish kids go all the time.
So,
it's like another level.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely a lot, and it like made me, because I was very much, I'm never having kids, but those 1 in 10, oh, they make me think about having kids. So I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed all the perks. I think I didn't like the job at all. I'm just gonna put that out there. I didn't like the job at all.
Fair.
I liked all the perks, but not the actual job, because no one wants to stand in 40-degree heat making popcorn and serving beer to very drunk, ignorant people.
True.
I mean, there was some really cool, friendly people, and I had some great conversations. But again, as when I say 1 in 10 kids, 1 in 10 adults.
That's fair.
So, can you think? Because I said like some of my favorite interactions were like always with kids. Can you think of like a really bad interaction for you? Because good interactions are hard to remember, because you don't remember the 10 people who are incredibly polite to you. Like when you work a customer service job, you don't come home and you go, hey Amy, how was work? Oh, good. Brittany was nice to me, Claire was nice to me, like everybody arrived on time for their appointments.
Yeah.
No, it's this one person did this. So can you think of like one of the worst interactions that is just ingrained in your mind?
You'll always remember like the sweetest. You'll always remember the weirdest.
Oh yeah.
I will say my weirdest because it's ingrained in me and I will never let it go. And then you'll always remember like the worst. I think overall, again, I was very lucky in a lot of the things and I brushed a lot of stuff off. I think the overall arcing of the worst ones were at this park, people would trade little pins. I feel like I can say that. Places do that.
Yeah.
And people, if you had on the necklace of the pins, people just yank on them. And I'm talking not just children who like, oh, it's like, sorry, sweetie, like, don't do that. You can tell them and they'll be like, oh, it would be full on 45, 55-year-old adults who were like, I can't see. Can you come closer? And I'm like, it's a choking
hazard. Yeah, you're wearing a lanyard wrapped around your neck, and a full-grown adult is grabbing that.
Like, it's inappropriate also. Yeah. I think the worst were the drunks. Like, yeah, where we worked, there was a whole drinking subculture, and that ruined and left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. I came down with like stars and hope and glitter in my eyes and like rose-colored glasses. Those glasses have now been diminished a lot. I still drink the Kool-Aid very much. Like I wanted to go back, almost went back, and then circumstances didn't allow me to go back. But I think a lot of it was like the drunk people or like the really, really unbelievably ignorant people who were just rude to you for absolutely no reason. But I got really good at like deflecting that. Like, we're from Canada, people would always be like, oh, welcome to Canada, E. And I would just go, sorry, what? And they'd be like, oh, you know E. And I'd like, no. I would just shut them down and they'd be like, okay. And they would walk away and I was like,
yeah, no, that definitely reminds me of one of my worst interactions. I was seating a table of, I believe it was a mother and daughter, and she says to me, you don't sound Canadian. I'm like, oh, I'm from the West Coast. We don't really have, I was like, the Canadian accent a lot of Americans think about is like a Southern Ontario, like very much like a Midwest Ontario accent. Mm-hmm. Being from the West Coast, don't have that. No. I have seen more of the West Coast of North America than I have the rest of Canada, because I just grew up traveling to Seattle, LA. I've seen a lot of California, and I was like, oh, I don't really have a Canadian accent. The West Coast accent is pretty laid back. Kind of think more of like a California accent. She goes, I feel so sorry for you. That's an annoying accent. And I'm like, okay.
You know what else is an annoying accent? Ignorance.
Exactly. It's hard because when you think working in the customer service industry, there's a lot of things people say to you when you're working, you just have to go, you have to either smile and go, okay, or just walk away. Especially with working for this company, the one thing we were not allowed to talk about was politics. And people would try to constantly get you to talk about politics. All the time. It was probably one of my, I would say that was my least favorite thing about guest interactions, was them trying to get me to goat me into talking about politics.
I would definitely say, and we did work there like 3 to 4 years ago now, so 2016.
Yeah, it was after 2016.
You can imagine the social climate of the U.S. in 2016, and people would just always make the jokes of us being like, "Oh, I'm gonna move to Canada. I want to move to Canada now," and it's like it's not that easy. Like it's really not. So yeah, that was incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, like a couple times, I kind of came up with the answer when anyone would even ask me about our prime minister. I would just go, "He's got great hair. Ha ha, is there anything else I can get you today?" That's the only answer I could say.
Yeah, I would always just say, like, at least he's pretty to look at. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, he's a good-looking guy. You can agree or disagree about what he's done in office, and other things about him. But yeah, that was the only thing I could say. He's got nice hair.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to be goaded into potentially losing my job. And also, too, when you're working an internship in a different country, our work visa was specifically tied to this job.
Yeah.
So if we got fired, we had 48 hours to get out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
So you are very, very careful about what you say, especially now, too. It's hard because in real life, if someone's rude to you, you can tell them where they can take it and shove it, right? But when you're in customer service, you have to find ways of deflecting. And it's really sad that customers think that they can do this to customer service. And that's why I firmly believe that the saying the customer is always right is bullshit. It's total bullshit. I don't know who came up with that, but it's completely not true. Because if I was to walk into a car dealership, point at a $40,000 car and go, "You're going to give this to me for $5. The customer's always right, then you're going to give it to me for $5, right?
Could you imagine that's how it worked?
Exactly. Like, that's not how it works. But in lower level customer service, customers get away with way more than they do in high end.
Mm-hmm.
Especially there.
Yeah.
So we didn't work together, but we worked within the same vicinity. So I would see you so I was on a beer cart, and then there was a merchandise cart as well. So that was my favorite, when I could see you and I would just wave to you.
Just wave.
Yeah. But we also ended up living together in Florida.
Yeah, so that was kind of a weird serendipitous moment almost. So in Florida, when you move down there, they put you up in housing. And you can choose whether or not to pick your roommates if you can. When I moved down, there was no one else I knew at the time. So I moved down there by myself, and I moved into an apartment that was all complete, like strangers. They were all from America. They were doing the American version of our program. So I didn't know them at all. They had already been down there for so many months because I came at a weird time. So when I came down, another girl who I worked with came down a couple months later, and we were turning 21 around the same time. And at this place, they allow you to do one consolidation move when you turn 21, because if you are under 21, you're not allowed alcohol in your apartment because of underage drinking, obviously. So they allow you to move to an apartment that's over 21 so you can have alcohol and just have that freedom. I moved around a couple times, but that's besides the point. I was just kind of getting moved from place to place to place, just circumstances wise. So when I got the option to move at 21, me and our friend took it. We moved in together, luckily, and you were having issues with your roommate.
Yeah, so I decided to try, because I've had problems in my life with roommates. I've had more bad roommates than good roommates in my life because I've moved many times as an adult. So I decided when I was going down there, I didn't want to be stuck with, someone who was crazy or someone who would steal from me. So I met another girl on Facebook who was also going down at the exact same time as me. She was from the other side of Canada, so there was no way we could have met. So we seemed to talk, we seemed to vibe, and it was going great until she said, hey, by the way, I'm 19, and I was 21. So if we wanted to live together, I would have to live in a non-drinking apartment, which at first I would thought, okay, that'll be fine. Because I'm sure I won't really drink. I won't be home. Because you think you're not going to be home as much as you are.
Yeah. And, like, you don't think that, like, oh, like, drinking is going to be like, such a thing.
So, I mean, part of me also didn't realize how much cheaper alcohol is in the US, but that's a whole other story. So we get down there, we move into a 1-bedroom so it's just her and I for the first month, and everything's going fine. Then a third girl joins us, and she was lovely. Like, I have nothing but good things to say about her. She was from Mexico. She was the sweetest woman. She was just never home. She just was never home. But this girl and I from Canada started to not get along. We also worked together, and I think it was many things why we just did not get along. Because I don't want to just completely shit on her. I think she had some issues that were unresolved, and maybe it wasn't the best choice for her to move down there. But we were having a lot of issues, and then I also, too, didn't realize how much the fact that I couldn't drink in my apartment upset me. Not that I'm a huge drinker, but if I want to come home from work and have a glass of wine, I wasn't allowed to. I had to go out, and meanwhile, like, bottles of wine, you can get a cheap bottle of wine for $5, or what Trader Joe's had those $1.99.
Oh, yeah. And, like, Publix was always buy one, get one.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You're like, what?
Alcohol is I didn't realize how cheap alcohol is down there. So, you know, if you want to come home and have a glass of wine after work, I couldn't. But I didn't want to go out. I was dirty, smelly, sweaty. I was exhausted. So why would I want to go to a bar for one drink when I could just come home and have a glass of wine? So once Amy and I started to become really good friends, because we had the same days off together, so we were always hanging out, we were at a bar, and this bar had a lovely deal of $2 on Thursdays for ladies. It's $2 ladies, and all you can drink. So I am on my, like, I want to say 4th vodka cranberry, and I turn to Amy, and I'm like, we should move in together.
And I will preface this. I went to this bar underage, which is something you can do in the States, which in my brain is absolutely baffling.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. But I was underage, not a lick of alcohol in me. So she goes, yeah, let's move in together. And I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, sounds great. So I'm like, this is a drunk thought. I'm not even gonna, not that I wouldn't, like, let the idea happen, but I was like, I doubt she'll remember this tomorrow. And yet.
Yeah, my memory is not as great anymore, but when I was young, I never forgot anything. So I remember the next day, and I was like, so are we doing it? And we ended up doing it. We moved into, me, you, and our other friend moved into another 1-bedroom, 3-person. Except I went from, yes, I was in a toxic environment, but I had the single bed, and then I moved to the top bunk.
Yeah, because when me and our other roommate moved in together, I got the top bunk. And we decided that because we knew the other girl that we were living with at the time was moving out, like, her program was ending, so we only knew her for like a month. She had the single bed, so once she left, I got the single bed and loved it. And yeah, you got the glorious top bunk.
Yeah, I grew up with a sister, and when me and my sister were kids, she was always a top bunk person. I was a bottom bunk person. I also am a bit claustrophobic. And I also get very, very warm when I sleep. So for the top bunk for me was an absolute nightmare. It also didn't help that out of the 3 of us, went through a little party phase. Like, I went out the most out of the 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
When you are very drunk, trying to climb up to a top bunk, meanwhile, the bottom bunk person, you're rolling in at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. She was asleep on the bottom bunk. You were either A, coming with me, or B, you were asleep on the single bed. So I'm rolling into the room at 3:30 in the morning, drunk, very drunk, and then this ladder also too rattled.
Yeah, it was a metal framed bed and the ladder did not sit properly. So when you climbed it, even when you were trying to be quiet, it like creak, snap, like something would happen and you couldn't even like put something on it to try to cushion because the rods were so small that you were like, it is more dangerous to put something to try to quiet it. So I think you ended up like sleeping on the couch most of the time.
It was really, so our other roommate, she's the grandma out of the three of us. If she knew I was going out because she was sick of me waking her up, she would have my comforter and my pillow waiting for me set up, like the couch was fully set up for me to sleep in that. Yep. It was like one part just her being wholesome, kind, and caring. The other part was don't wake me up. I have to work in the morning. Yeah. I will kill you. Yeah. So so definitely don't recommend getting the top bunk if you like to go out at night. Try to get there first if you can get the single bed, but also I was getting out of a bad situation and I had to have the top bunk, but living with you and her made my entire life 10 times better.
Yeah, because my original apartment, I had the top bunk and I truly, the top bunk really wasn't that bad, but your girl's got some serious back problems to the point where I like can't function sometimes. So trying to get up and down that ladder was unbelievably painful. It just hurt all the time. Like I was just always in so much pain. So much pain.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So definitely then, so we only lived together for a couple months.
Yeah, like 5. It feels so much longer. Yeah. But like it was a solid 5 months.
And then cuz you ended up leaving in November. Mm-hmm. So cuz we moved together in July moved in together in July, and then you were going home in November cuz your program was up, but mine and the other roommates was not. Mm-hmm. So you moved out, I immediately, like, your bed was not cold. I took the single bed.
My bed also wasn't cold, and they immediately replaced me.
Yeah, and then, so I had just moved all my stuff to the single bed. I come home from work, and there's already a sign up on the bunk bed that I had vacated 5 hours earlier saying, you're getting a new roommate, because we were told we would not be getting a new roommate. Mm-hmm. So we're like, this is great, just the two of us. But we did end up getting a third roommate, and she was lovely. She was from Italy. So sweet, so nice, never home. So it was, we were scared, but it was best case scenario. Mm-hmm. I think for roommates, those are the two best types of roommates. One, obviously, is the roommate that becomes your best friend and you love them more than anything. Or two, they are clean, nice, and never home.
Yeah. Or just super quiet.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
Mm-hmm. So definitely... Actually, I would take never home over always home. And, like, if someone's always home, it's a little weird. Because you're like, go out. Go do something. The world's your oyster here. You're here for a year. Go do something.
Oh, well, yeah, like in Florida circumstances. Yeah.
No, but even real life, too, it's like if you never did anything after work, if you just went to work, came home, went to work, came home, like, you can love your roommate so much, but I like it when you go out and I'm like, oh, cool, I have an hour to myself. Yeah. Right? That's I think with roommates, for me, I'd prefer a roommate who's never home than one who's always home.
Question. What was your favorite thing about living together? Favorite and least favorite.
Okay.
Just one or two.
Oh, God. Our favorite thing was just... for my situation switching, how safe and comfortable I felt living with you two, because I know you two would never steal from me, wouldn't touch my stuff unless, or like, I'm very much a person just ask. And it was just, I felt like I had a giant weight off my chest. I felt like I also too I was very homesick. And you two became very much my family down there. So I felt like I was just living with my two sisters. Fair. So I think my least favorite besides the top bunk, God, I hated the top bunk.
That doesn't count. That's a given.
My least favorite was probably when you two worked together. And you two would just go off on complaining about these people. And I'd sit there going, uh-huh. and you two would go off for a long time, and I'd just be like, okay, it's cool, we get it. Like, there were certain things, like, I mean, there were certain things you two would complain about that I had heard you guys complain about so many times, and I was just like, and you would try to be like, so you get it, huh? And you'd be talking to me, and I'm like, I don't really have any part of this.
Yeah, I will say, that's a very valid. We did complain a lot, and if any of our old coworkers are listening to this, I don't mean anything by it. You know, when you're down, the thing is, when you're down there, your emotions are so high. Everything is so heightened. It's like you're back in high school to a certain degree. Mm-hmm. Love y'all now in retrospect. At the time, wanted to strangle a couple of you. But overall, y'all were great, lovely people. Miss you.
I would say it's a weird feeling. So it's an internship. It's also community. The best way I can describe it to people who haven't done it, it's kind of like working at a ski resort where you live together, work together, you party together, you see the same people every single day. And I also want to say that it was kind of like the college experience that I never got. Like, I did go to college, and you're in college right now. Yeah. But where we went, there's no fraternities, no sororities, you know, nobody really had parties. So it was a very different situation. Then we went down there. I was like, okay, so this was kind of like my college experience. Yeah. There was no dorms. And then now I'm living in essentially like a little apartment, which was a dorm. Like, yeah, we had a full kitchen, which was nice. I could not have lived without a full kitchen. God. But I was living in a 1-bedroom with 3 girls with a bunk bed. And then, you know, we had coin laundry. We had a community pool and all. So it felt... And then also, too, when you take the partying. So living in Canada, you can drink when you're either 18 or 19, depending on what province you live in. Mm-hmm. When I turned 19, I wasn't a partier because I didn't go to... I mean, I went to a few college parties. And then I was never really into clubbing downtown just because I was very poor. I was a very poor student. It is very expensive to go out in Vancouver. It's incredibly expensive. So I was just never into it. But then when we got down in Florida, you kind of run out of things to do. And then you also realize how relaxed the liquor laws are, how cheap liquor is. It's something to do. And it's also a sense of everybody in the mini Canada is your little community. Mm-hmm. So they plan nights to go out. Like, in Florida, you can go drinking every single night of the week. Oh, wow. There's always something going on every single night of the week. Our big ones was Mondays and Thursdays because most people had to work the weekends. Yeah. So people would go out on Mondays and people would get out Thursdays. Mondays was a giant flip cup Olympics. And Thursdays was a country bar. I want to talk about the country bar first. So I hate country music. I hate it with a passion. I'm very sorry. I'm not into the hee-haw. I mean, I like Dolly Parton, and that is about it.
What about Shania?
No.
Really?
No, my parents tried to raise me on Shania Twain. They've even seen her in concert, and I'm just like,
All right, fair.
I mean, I do know all the words to Man, I Feel Like a Woman, but that's just not by choice. It's just ingrained in me from road trips. So we would go to this cowboy bar. It was called Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Yeah.
Respectfully.
Respectfully, Cowboys. Because Thursday night was $2 ladies. So $2 ladies got in, and then all the drinks were $2.
No, ladies got in free.
No.
And then ladies covers $2 and ladies drank for free something like that.
No, because Saturdays was $10 all you can drink beer.
Right.
Yeah. But I only went once on a Saturday, and I can't drink beer. I was so over drinking beer because we drank beer on Mondays, but anyways. So it was Thursdays was $2 entry for ladies and then $2 drink. So I could put up with country music when a night out only cost me $12. The most expensive part about that night was the grilled cheese I would get afterwards.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, there's a little grilled cheese trailer outside the bar. Absolutely great. They had grilled cheese, they had mac and cheese bites, they had mozzarella sticks. One night I cried because I dropped my mozzarella sticks in the parking lot. And you know, if you're crying over mozzarella sticks, you've had a good night.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we would all go together we would take this giant van, they would drop us off at this bar, we'd all party, and then they'd pick us up and then take us back to the apartments. And some decisions I always seem to make decisions on those nights. And I'm glad, because that was the night we decided to move in together.
Yep.
I decided to make this decision. But, so, I've also want to say, like, I am not a partier, but that is the first and only bar I have ever been kicked out of. And the same goes for you.
I was almost kicked out of a couple bars when I was in Europe. A couple.
Okay.
I say almost because I wasn't ever fully kicked out, but there was a couple times where security was looking at me and my friend was like, Amy, let's go get water. But that's a totally other thing. Yeah, no, this is the first bar I was ever kicked out of. Currently only.
I'm gonna hope for me it's the only bar I ever get kicked out of.
I mean, now that we're getting a little bit older, if I get kicked out of a bar now, that's 100% on me.
Oh, truly.
Like, when you're younger, you can kind of excuse it. And especially in the States, like, I was 21, you were 22. And, you know, those are the respectable ages you can start getting kicked out of. Yeah. Now we are 3-4 years older. Nah, I can't be pulling that anymore.
Exactly.
We got work in the morning. We got bills to pay.
Yeah. So I got kicked out. I was drinking a lot. I wasn't sloshed like they accused me, but I decided this one night I was going to wear high heels. Now, I usually wear like a respectable 2-inch heel because I'm 5'3", so I like to be 5'5". So I usually wear like boots with a bit of a 2-inch heel. But for some reason, that night, I decided to go out in these 6-inch wedges because I thought I was living I thought like my outfit, I was living Miami realness, and they were also lace up too.
Oh, wow.
And the lace came undone, and I tripped and fell over the lace, and that's why I got kicked out, because they said she was too fall over drunk. And then I said no, but then I also said not a nice word to the bouncer, so I was very much kicked out.
Oh, yeah. You may have been fine, but once you said that inappropriate word,
yeah,
gone.
Exactly.
I got kicked out on the holiest day of the year, Canada Day. I was like freshly 21 by only a couple weeks, and I was excited. I had the night off. It was Canada Day was on a Saturday?
I don't know.
I believe so, because I remember it was all you can drink beer. And we drank around our park for a little bit, then went home, was drinking more, and it was going to be me and a friend going out, and then we roped our other roommate into coming, because she said, if I don't come out with you, I don't think you'll get home safely. And then you were going to come out, but you were feeling really, really sick.
Yeah.
Because you went out the night before.
Yeah, I went to a Canada Day Eve party, and then I had to work Canada Day, and I was very hungover.
Yeah.
And I was one of the only 4 people who had to work that day, and I hated everybody.
Yeah. So I went out. I was pretty gone. I'm not gonna lie. I was having a good time. I was feeling myself. I was feeling Canada Day. I was just excited. I wanted to dance. I wanted to hang out. And I ended up again, and the sad thing was, at least you were in heels when you tripped. I was in sneakers. I just tripped over my own feet. And I hit a chair and it kind of toppled, and I was like, oh crap. And the bouncer was like, no, you gotta go. And I was like, I just want a glass of water. And he's like, you need to leave. And I'm like, can I at least get a glass of water before I leave? So then my friend got me a glass of water. And I drank it outside. And she's like, are you good? And I was like, yeah, I should be fine. And we got an Uber home. I have a beautiful photo of that night that was taken by one of my friends. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's in my little scrapbook.
No, our third roommate was there with both of us when both of us got kicked out our separate times.
Yeah, she paid for both of those Ubers.
Yep, she took care of both of us. She tipped the Uber driver when I threatened to throw up in the car. I didn't. Saved that for the bathtub when we got home. The one thing I learned about drinking is if you have a bathtub, that is the best place to sleep if you think you're going to throw up, because the bathtub is cold, and if you throw up, it's the easiest thing to clean.
Do you think partying with your, like, coworkers was, like, easy or hard, or, like, how did you bridge that, kind of?
Yeah, it's definitely different than a normal job. When you work a normal job, you have that kind of build up to, should we go to the mall after work? You have that build up, but
You
with
want to go for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, then you branch into, like, happy hour maybe, or drinking, or if you're like me, you just start off right off the bat drinking with some of your coworkers.
Yeah, but with this internship, you're kind of expected. It's just from the beginning, they would put out a mass Facebook post and be like, okay, we're going to this place, come. And I found that for me, I was very awkward at the beginning because I'd be sitting there kind of like, you kind of clutch onto the person you arrive with. So I was sitting with my old roommate. We had clutched onto each other at the beginning. And I'm not, again, as we've said, I am standoffish, so I am very friendly once I get over the initial, like, I hate introducing myself. Like, one of my biggest fears, I do not like walking up to a stranger and introducing myself. It's one of my least favorite things in the entire world. But I'm very good at bridging the acquaintance to friend very quickly. It's just getting
your foot in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that situation is a little different than like a normal situation, but I think the best thing you can do if you just want to hang out with your coworkers is just ask. And if someone says no, like, it's a numbers game, because I would want to do things and my roommate would be working and I was like, I have no friends. You just got to ask people. You ask enough people, someone's into that's a big thing. Even that's with dating too. It's a numbers game. You ask, and you keep asking until you find someone who's also into it. You know, if you ask 5 people and they're all about like, hey, do you want to go ride a roller coaster? And you get no. The 6th person, yeah, I love roller coasters. Let's go ride roller coasters all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just finding that common ground, because not everybody partied. I would say only 70% of people partied. There was, like, if you wanted to go down there and not party at all, there were still people who had no interest in doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, out of the 3 roommates, me, you, and our other one, I partied the most.
Yeah.
Our other roommate barely partied.
Yeah. You were just a bad influence on me. That's kind of what happened there. Is one time you were like, Amy, let's go to, like, Mondays. Have you ever been? And I was like, no. But it was also because, like, and the thing was, you were saying, like, if you didn't want to party, like, there were lots of people who didn't. And because I went down and I was underage, I automatically could not party. Yes, there were people who partied underage. By all means, you're allowed to. That's totally fine. You do you. Partying underage, that made me so unbelievably nervous and uncomfortable because I'm not that kind of person. It just made me incredibly nervous. So I was like, no, I don't want to get kicked out. I maybe had like a few sips of wine or like a few sips of other people's drinks, but I never had any like full thing until I turned 21. So.
Yeah, no, once we became friends, you completely changed.
Yeah.
not in a bad way. It's just,
I just opened up more, I think.
Oh, you just like fully came, like you were a pearl that just fully came out of your shell.
You know what I think it was? And again, this comes out. We worked in different departments. We were like a bridge. We bridged the 2 departments like together, because then you started knowing kind of like the whole merchandise, and I didn't know all of food and beverage, but I started to know like your food and beverage friends, and they were really nice, and I liked them and they liked me, and like we called you an honorary merchie because we're like, A, you live with us, so that you kind of are, but like B, like everyone liked you come in all the time. And there were a couple people in merch who would drink, not a lot, but the main one was one of the guy coworkers. Then me and him kind of like talked, and then like you guys talked, and then, you know, it just it broadened my circle, and it just like opened up a whole new world, which was nice.
Yeah, no, it was, and also a lot of people who had never really known you got to know you, and I think that was great for you.
Yeah.
a lot of people also just didn't realize how fun you were, because it was weird. The food and beverage people would just think like all the merchandise people didn't come out, and I was friends with. There was also an attractions part of the side as well, and I was friends with a lot of them too. I've always been like I was never wanted to just stick to one department. I wanted to make sure I knew everybody in every department. So we would go every Monday was this flip cup Olympics, and there was male and female teams from all the countries. So I joined the Canadian girls team, and I would bring out Amy. Amy was never officially a member.
No, I just kind of came to have a good time.
But
I didn't go that much. I think I only went like 4 to 5 times, maybe 6. It was still fun.
So my favorite night was one of the first nights it was the second night I brought you out, because you'd been to one night before 90s night.
Yeah.
So it was it was a theme night. It was 90s night. So Amy and I bought these Space Jam crop tops from Forever 21. I had a pair of overalls on. I think you just had jeans.
Yeah.
I had space buns in my hair. I had a lime green choker. Like I was living my little 90s grunge fantasy. And we go out. We have a great night. It's one of my favorite photos of the two of us. We're riding the bus home. I look. Amy's hunched over. I feel something weird on my leg. Amy has puked all over my leg and in her purse.
And all I remember from that is I fell asleep on the bus. I fell asleep. I woke up and I was like on Kelsey's lap, and I kind of like felt something really wet, and Kelsey's like, Amy, you just threw up. And I was like, oh no. Still have that purse. There's still a tiny, tiny bit of throw up on that purse like 4 years later. Can't get it off.
Don't have those overalls anymore.
Don't know.
But yeah, no, that was definitely...
Once you've puked on someone,
Yeah.
it kind of solidifies something in between.
Yeah, either you can't stand that person or that's a friend for life.
Yeah.
It's up to you which way you choose to go with that. I decided to keep you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. No, and then we would go to this night, and then another night we went. It was just a regular night. And these two girls from America decided to join us. And they were interesting little ladies.
Oh, they were something else, all right.
Yeah, they were both maybe 90 pounds. So after their second beer, they were both drunk.
Yeah.
So they were both so drunk. I was feeding one a granola bar in the bathroom, and they tell us that they're going to get these matching tattoos. They'd known each other for a month, and that they were best friends, and they were going to get matching tattoos. And you and I joked about that for the longest time.
Because we were like, because they were so sloshed, they were so far gone that we were like, I don't think they're going to remember this in the morning. Mm-hmm. And you ended up adding them on Facebook.
Yeah, one of them added me on Facebook, and then like a couple weeks later, I see a post. They both got the matching tattoo in script on their rib cages, and it was huge. It wasn't small, it was big.
It was, and they were holding each other in a prom type pose.
In like bikinis.
Yeah, bikinis, so you could see the side of their tattoos, and you're like, this isn't real. There is no way this is real. And people are commenting, oh, that's so cute. Oh, I love it. And you're like, really? You sure?
So this has now been a running joke for the two of us, about 3 years. Every time we're feeling funny, we joke about these two girls. So for Amy's birthday this year, so I don't have any tattoos. You have how many tattoos before the one we just got?
4.
So you already had 4 tattoos. I've never had a tattoo. I was like, for your birthday, because you really wanted to get a tattoo for your birthday, I will pay for us to get matching tattoos, and we're going to get the word that these girls got. Completely different font, completely different place. I'm not having... Should I just say it?
Say the word, doesn't matter.
I am not having C. Baco in script on my rib cage. So we got it printed nicely on our feet, and now on both of us on our left foot have the word C. Baco, which means rise to the challenge in Na'vi. And that entire internship and experience truly does ask you to rise to the challenge. So before we end this, I just want to ask you, is there any regrets?
Regrets in the way of like I didn't get to do all the things I wanted to do. Like everyone goes down like, oh, a year is like no time at all. And like in the back of your brain, like, no, like a year is a long time. No, a year is literally gone in the blink of an eye. You're celebrating, I've been down here for 2 months. This is so exciting. And then you are literally sitting at your 11-month mark crying. If you are me, you are having an existential crisis about coming home, needing to find a job, needing to pack up all of the crap that you have now bought over a year of like souvenirs, merchandise, all these things people ask you to buy, and you gotta bring all this home. You don't want to leave. You don't want to leave all your friends. You never know when you're gonna see them again. I like my biggest regret is probably just not getting to do all the things I wanted to do. But I'm also happy because I did a lot of things I wasn't expecting to do. Like a big thing a lot of people did was they wrote bucket lists. You had a bucket list. I had a bucket list. I didn't do a lot of the things on my bucket list, but there was a lot of things I didn't know about before going down there. So, yeah, my only big regret is just not doing as many things and not branching out earlier than I did. But I do think the fact that I went down at a younger age didn't help me like that kind of like stopped me from branching out just because I wasn't comfortable with it. So, yeah. What about you, miss?
I don't really have any regrets because I was a very different person when I went down there when I am now. Sometimes I wonder if maybe I was too young. I think I have completely changed as a person since I've been there, and then I don't say I have regrets. If I could tell my younger self, it would be two things. One, just calm down. I was so overworked, so over emotional, so it was just all of my emotions were so high. If I would had just a lot of times I wish I had taken more time to myself to fully just have my moments, because there's a lot of times I would let my emotions get the best of me. And when you're in a heightened situation, you're homesick, your entire life is completely different. You need to really prioritize and giving yourself that time to decompress. Like if I had like I sometimes would just stay home, but I found my peace more going to the beach and sitting on the beach for 2 hours by myself, because that reminded me of home. So I wish I would have pushed myself to do more things to remind me of home, so I wouldn't have gotten so homesick, so I wouldn't have gotten so emotional. And the other thing I would have just told myself is it's not forever. Like anytime you're upset, this is not forever. Because with customer service, again, like we said, you always focus on the bad. You always focus on the one bad customer when there was 1,000 who were very just nice and polite to you. They just didn't do anything out of the normal. But I think that's something you can tell yourself every single day, because I still work as customer service, and so do you.
Yeah.
Is that one customer does not ruin your entire day for you. Because just because Karen was mean to you doesn't mean those 10 other customers who just asked you how your day was, they took their item, they left. They didn't do anything to you, so why are you letting Karen ruin all of those people just being kind, good, nice, well-mannered people?
No, that's 100% like a great point. And even like the weird people and like the weird things that happened, you can't expect that to happen. Like, why would that ever happen? So, yeah.
But that sums up our very first job together, our very first time living together, and how we met.
Should we say that like while we were living down there, not to toot our own horns, the community we had, they gave away awards. And I think this is one of the reasons we kind of thought about starting this podcast in the first place was they gave away different awards, and when someone left, you do what was called a throw out, and you would say bye, say some sweet words, and you would give away all your awards you got. We ended up getting the best roommate award, which is like, that is probably like that is probably one of my favorite memories.
That
it
is
was
my favorite
so
award
sweet.
that I had.
I'm really mad we never took a photo with the
Yeah.
award. That was stupid, but it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
We signed our names on it.
Yeah.
It's living down there now.
Yeah, no, I think on all, that was because I had quite a few awards. So did you. So did our other roommate. But the three of us got the best roommate award, and that meant so much to me. Because you guys were truly my family, and you made the whole situation worth it. Like, would I ever do it again? No. But I never regret doing it because I wouldn't have you and me sitting at our kitchen table right now if I had not gone.
Yeah, which is, again, the reason we started this podcast in the first place, because a lot of people always get scared wanting to make friends with their coworkers because they're like, is that weird? I don't know how to talk to them. You can make friends with your coworkers. Hell, you can even end up living with your coworkers. How you deal with that is totally up to you. We are 100% the, what's it called? The rule. We're the exception to the rule.
Yeah, we're not
Sorry.
the rule. We are the exception to the rule.
We should be the rule. We are 100% the exception to the rule. But I'm happy that we're the exception to the rule. We're a great exception.
And you know what the very first thing you should do to make sure that you are going to be friends with your coworker? Do not text them at 5 a.m. asking them to take your 8 a.m. opening shift. So thank you so much for listening and have a great day.